Namaste. Welcome to this session. We have been dealing with Isvara pranidhana, meaning bhakti. And we had come to see the classification of Prema bhava, the feeling of love, emotion of love. And there is a beautiful classification that comes in Srimad Bhagvatam. A very interesting observation of the seers of the lore, sages of the lore. So it is said there that loving someone who loves us is a kind of love. Someone loves us and therefore we love. So this is a kind of a business tactic in love. So it mentions about this. Because someone loves, we love. We at least express that we love. So that is a kind of trade in love. It's a barter, it's an exchange. And here there is stark selfishness that can be seen. So it's a kind of selfishness out of which one has love for someone else just because that person loves this person. Now this is rtha mulaka. It is based on selfishness, self-centricity, self-esteem. And therefore this is called as neemna varga. This is the lowest kind of vairagya. Prema. This is lowest kind of prema. The middle kind of prem, the Madhyama caliber of prem, is different than this. Even if someone is not loving, one loves the other. Or just because the others are not loving, one loves the others. So there is some kind of spontaneity and naturality. Nature of love is there in that person. Therefore, the person loves. So the person doesn't consider whether someone loves me or not, or this person loves me or not, or that person loves me or not, or whether people love me or not. It is natural and spontaneous for this person to be loving. So that is the Madhyama varga. That's the middle class of vairagya, prem, middle class of love. And this is also accepted as against the earlier one, which was lower kind of love, where that was selfishness, there was the trading mind, business mind. Here there is not that. So this is also called dharmya prakara. So this is a merit. Here one scores the merit. In the former one doesn't score merit, although there is a good feeling of love or good emotion of love. But then the Uttama prakara is also described. The third one is Uttama prakara, is Uttama kind of love. That is to be loving others but not expecting love from them. To be loving others, which is natural, spontaneous. To be loving others but not expecting any reciprocity, not expecting that others should be also loving you. So this is a Uttama prakara in Prema bhava. You should know that Prema bhava is so basic to bhakti, and that's why we commenced with considering the Prema bhava. The love is so centric, foundational, basic to bhakti. Therefore, we have been considering prema. And in Srimad Bhagvatam, here comes this wonderful classification: adhama bhava, madhyama bhava, uttama bhava. Madhyama bhava is a merit, and it is called dharmya. It is considered as dharmya prakara. And the uttama prakara, of course, is exalted. But in case of a Bhagavata, that means a devotee of divinity, their relationship of love is unique. The love affair between Bhagavata and Bhagavanta, love affair between a devotee and divinity is unique. It is called Vilakshana Prema Bhava. Vilakshana, that means extraordinary. It's an extraordinary kind of love. It is not one of these three kinds of loves that we discussed, called adhama, madhyama, uttama. It is unique. It is extraordinary. It is vilakshana. Now, how it is vilakshana? The devotee has complete love in divinity. He offers his love completely to the divinity. But sometimes Bhagavan pretends to be rejecting it, or pretends to be not accepting it, and not acknowledging it, not accepting it, or even rejecting it. Then what happens with this? The devotee becomes more and more earnest in loving his divinity. So this relationship is beautifully explained by an metaphor. See, sometimes a baby will be harassing mother, troubles the mother and harasses the mother, and harasses to the extent that the mother gets wild and mother becomes angry. So sometimes Bhagavan plays similar role. He wants to see if bhakta, the devotee, can be tormented, agonized. Now, in case of baby and mother, mother becomes angry. And here, the divinity sportively tries to harass the bhakta, harass the devotee. And he wants to see the reaction of his devotee. This will be different reaction of the devotee. The devotee becomes more and more supplicative. He really weeps for Bhagavan, who is rejecting his bhakti, or who is dishonoring his bhakti. But this is all sportively done by Bhagavan, and the Bhagavata is not able to read this. The Bhagavata doesn't come to know this. So Bhagavata really will be in tears. And sometimes he wants to test this Bhagavata and taste his love by harassing his devotee. And this is all his sports, it is in his sports. It is his Bhagavad Leela. Like in case of a baby and a mother, the mother would get angry, perhaps would spank the child also. But Bhagavata reacts differently. He really weeps. He overcomes with enormous sorrow, and then it gives different shape, form, manifestation to his love for divinity. So sometimes point is Bhagavan also harasses, chastises Bhagavata, his devotee, but it's altogether different. Why he torments, how he torments is totally different. But in Bhakti Shastra, you come across such descriptions where Bhagavata is being tormented by his Bhagavan, and Bhagavan enjoys his sorrow, because that sorrow is unique sorrow. We will never have such sorrow in our worldly life. So these are all out of sports of love. In sports of love, so many things happen. If you try to understand psychology of love, sometimes the lover torments and harasses the beloved because the reaction of the beloved is so relishing. So, if you understand the psychology of love or have a thought put into it, you will understand that it's a unique realm when it is matter of love. Why someone gets angry, why someone harasses. Someone means between beloved and lover. Why one harasses the other? It is for that reaction, which is unique reaction. If you are harassed by someone else, anyone else, you won't react that way. So in love affairs, it's totally different thing. And this has come in psychology of bhakti. This relationship between Bhagavata and Bhagavan is like that of a beloved and a lover. So in their sports, this is also one of the ways that Bhagavan torments Bhagavata. Because the love differently manifests when harassed and chastised by Bhagavan. Like the love differently manifests in beloved when the lover harasses, or vice versa. So this manifestation of love is unique. So this is also a thing that comes in bhakti. Then we go to the next point here. If you see all our emotions, emotional states, emotions, aversion is also an emotion. Just as love is emotion, dvesha is emotion. Just as prema is emotion, dvesha is emotion. So here we have to take dvesha in counterposition of prema, because we are used to taking dvesha in counterposition of raga, dvesha. But that is in yoga psychology. Now in bhakti psychology, we must place them side by side. Prema and opposite of prema is dvesha. Now this dvesha is tama pradhana. It is tamasic. It is tamoguna profused. So dvesha is tamasika. Raga lobha that we speak about in yoga and even in Sanskrit. Raga means attachment and lobha means greed, avarice. So these are raja pradhana. So these are more rajasic bhavas. These are also emotions. Attachment, the love of the kind of nature of attachment, and greed, avarice is also an emotion, and it is rajasic. It is raja pradhana. It is rajoguna preponderance in raga lobha. While on the other hand, the bhava bhavana such as sneha is that the chemical attraction in friendliness, the chemistries, the capillary attractions in the chemistries of two persons in friendliness, that is called sneha bhava. Then vatsalya. Vatsalya means the love of mother for her offspring, for her baby. That's called vatsalya bhava. So also jivvala. Jivvala is affiliation, a bondage to near ones and dear ones, where you are inquisitive about the well-being of the person. You often remember the person. You often have worry for that person. You every time think of that person in your sukha dukkha. So that's a kind of affiliation where we remember that person in our sukha as well as dukkha more intently, more intensely. That is called jivvala. And then prema, which is love, and shraddha, which is reverence. These are considered to be sattvic bhavas. But in worldly realm, although we classify them as tamasic, rajasic and sattvic, the fact of the matter is that they are mixed. If you feel something is sattvic, it is moha mishrita and raga mishrita. We have the worldly gravities. These are worldly gravities that we cannot escape. Raga and moha cannot be escaped. So when you have this love manifestation, it will be in worldly realm moha mishrita and raga mishrita. There will be delusion and there will be also attachment. Without attachment, you will not be having love. Without delusion, you won't be having love. So you can understand this in psychology of love. When there is a love between two persons, then you can identify that there is moha and there is raga. Raga means attachment and moha means delusion. And therefore, they are all compound. So even if it is sattvic bhava in the form of sneha, vatsalya, jivvala, prem, shraddha, or in the form of affiliation, friendliness, motherly love, or fatherly love, or the attachment that we have in our family setup, that's called jivvala. And prema and shraddha, the love and reverence, they are rajatama mishrit. You will never be able to have them pure sattvic in worldly realm. They are always rajatama mishra. They are mixed with rajatama gunas. But Bhagavad Bhakti or Bhagavadanurukti is unique. It stands out. It is vilakshana. It is sattva pradhana. It is mohatita, not moha mishrita, but it is mohatita. It is not mixed with moha, but it is transcending moha. So also ragatita, not raga mishrita, but raga atita, attachment transcending, and not attachment mixed. Therefore, it is Shuddha Sattvamayi. So, the love for God, love for divinity can possibly be, could be Satyamayi, Sattvamayi, and possibly can be pure. But all other loves, howsoever they might be claimed to be pure, they are not really pure. They are always having the taint of Rajatama gunas. But in bhakti, the love for divinity can possibly be Sattvamayi, Shuddha Sattvamayi, pure Satvik, and completely Satvik, Sattva profused. While in Laukik Bhava, when it comes to worldly plane, like Putra Prema, or Mitra Prema, when it comes to offspring, when it comes to friends. So in Putra Bhava, in Sneha Bhava, Bhakti Bhava, Bhratru Bhava, Matru Bhava, Pitru Bhava, you will see that except with divinity, when the love is there, all others are causing bondage, all others are sourced in bondage, they are rooted in bondage, and they create bondage, they generate bondage. But when you have love invested in divinity, it can give you mukti. The other loves, love in Laukika Bhava will not give you mukti, it will give you more bondage. The bondage will be reinforced more and more. But if that is invested in Isvara Bhava, it can give mukti. That's the difference between Alaukika Prema Bhava in Bhagwan and Laukika Prema Bhava in all mortals, our people, our things. So, understand how this love that comes in bhakti stands out. It can give you liberation. Bhakti is love, but then we have to understand how it stands out, how it is unique. So this was little bit of attempt to convey that the Bhagavata's love for divinity is totally different, unique, outstanding. And anybody's love for divinity is going to be outstanding. Therefore, Bhakti says we must have our emotion of love. If you don't have any emotion of love, you really don't have human life. You might be a human being, but you really don't have human life. You don't live a human life. You must have love factor in your life. And it is best to have this love factor in divinity, which will loosen out bondage and which will also give you freedom. This is what Bhakti psychology says. That love is indispensable. The life will not be fulfilled. Life will not be really a delight or joy or bliss unless there is love element in life. And therefore, it is best to have this love element in divinity so that the life will proceed towards giving liberation. Anyway, now we are going to look at some classifications of bhakti. We have seen few classifications earlier. You should recall in the previous session we saw some classifications of bhakti. Now we arrive at another classification of bhakti, which comes in the Bhakti Sutras. There are two types of bhakti. It is called Gauni and Para Bhakti. Gauni Bhakti and Para Bhakti. Gauni Bhakti means secondary Bhakti. The lower kind of Bhakti is secondary Bhakti. And Para Bhakti is primary Bhakti, major Bhakti, and superior Bhakti. Now since we do not have Para Bhakti, our Bhakti to divinity, we might have whatever love for divinity, reverence for divinity, etc., etc. Yet, we are pretty sure that we don't have Para Bhakti. Ours is Gauni. We mortals have Gauni Bhakti. And it all starts with Gauni Bhakti. The sadhaka first has to attempt to develop Gauni Bhakti. That's why the classification has been given. It is not just to show that there is some hierarchy, this is lower and that is higher. When you are shown such thing, you want to opt for higher. But don't look at this classification that way. It implies that we must first take lower step. Proceed towards the lower steps called Gauni Bhakti. So all seekers in Bhakti, those who want to inculcate, imbibe Bhakti emotion, which will be sought after by everyone who is in the path of dharma, who is in the path of yoga, who is in path of adhyatma, mumukshutva. So we will have to take Gauni Bhakti. So it is not to be looked down upon because it has been stated as Gauni. Gauni means secondary. But it is suggesting, it implies that we must first try to inculcate this. We must try to imbibe it. We have to harvest it. We have to enrich it. So that's how this classification is given. It is not given as lower and higher, but lower means the one on which we have to embark upon. That's why it is called Gauni Bhakti. And then the second one is called Para Bhakti. Para Bhakti means that of Bhagavatas. Prahlada, Narad, Parashar, Pundarika, Vyasa, Ambarisha, Hanuman, etc., etc. You know those names of Bhaktas. If not, you should be knowing. If you are trying to study Bhakti Shastra here, as we have to study what is Ishvara Pranidhana, it is important that we start knowing who are Bhaktas, why are they Bhaktas, how did they conduct their life, why were they called Bhaktas, what was their kind of Bhakti. So, all those, they are in Para Bhakti, such as Hanumana, such as Narada, such as Vasishtha, Vyasa, Prahlada, Narada, Parashara, Pundarika, Vyasa, Ambarisha, Shuka, Shaunaka, Bhishma, Dalbhya, Rukmangada, Vasishtha, Vibhishana. So these are all great bhaktas. Tukaram, Jnaneshwar, Mirabai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. These are all great bhaktas. Tyagaraja. Great bhaktas. So that is Para Bhakti. So that's how we have to understand Gauni and Para. The Gauni Bhakti is again of two kinds. Listen to this carefully. The first classification is Gauni and Para. Now the Gauni has subset. The Gauni is again of two kinds called Vaidhi and Ragatmika. Vaidhi and Ragatmika. Vaidhi means Vidhipurvaka. The Bhakti tradition gives us certain injunctions as to how should we conduct ourselves with respect to God. And we are given certain processes that this is how we must worship our God. This is how we have to pray our God. This is how we have to worship our God. That is called Vaidhi Bhakti. There is some vidhi, there are some vidhis, there are some technical observations, there are some technicalities. That's called Vidhi Bhakti, Vidhi Purvaka Bhakti. Just because you love, you can't be doing your bhakti in any way that you feel like. No, there is a way, there is a modus operandi, there is a process given by our tradition. So there is a convention as to how we should worship our God in a best possible way and the right way. The Shastras have told us this is how to worship your divinity. This is how you have to worship your deity. This is how you have to worship your revered ones. There is a way to worship them, and we must adhere to those. So when you have some certain adherence, that is called vidhi bhakti, and the other one is ragatmika, because in bhakti or in that love, the emotion is so important. That is ragatmika, the raga. The mind must have love. There must be love in the mind. So that's the ragatmika. So what does it imply? In vidhi bhakti, many times we don't have that feeling. But yet the vidhi bhakti should be followed. Sooner or later we will start developing feeling. The feeling will be there. So our process will be raga coated, love coated, like sugar coated pill. The vidhi, the process, the technicalities will be raga coated. That means love coated. The love will come in. So these are the classifications. The para doesn't have subset, obviously, because it is supreme kind of bhakti. But the gauni has a subset, which is vaidhi and ragatmika. Now this gauni bhakti is aiming at para bhakti. The gauni bhakti is looking at para bhakti. That means its radar is pointing at para bhakti. Gauni bhakti should sooner or later, if not sooner later, should become evolved, and it should proceed towards becoming para bhakti. That is how this class is, the gauni class is. It is not absolute classification. The gauni is trying to idealize para bhakti and is having its radars pointing towards para bhakti so that it should become para bhakti sooner or later. Therefore, para bhakti is uttarangi and gauni bhakti is purvangi. So, gauni bhakti comes earlier and para bhakti comes later. So it implies that we have to understand what is vaidhi bhakti, vidhi purvaka bhakti, vidhi adhering bhakti. Vidhi means certain injunctions, certain processes, certain technicalities. So vidhi becomes important. We should not falter in the very process. We should adhere to the process because the process is proven process. By adhering to the process, sooner it will evolve ragatmika bhakti. Ragatmikata will come sooner or later by following this such a process, such a vidhi that it will slowly bring in the ragatmaka element in bhakti. So, therefore, we must be quite scrupulous in vidhi bhakti and not look down upon and not overlook, not neglect it, not be heedless about it. We must quite scrupulously adhere to vidhi given by tradition, given by the Shastras, given by long tradition, well tested tradition. That's why it is called vidhi, vidhi purvaka. And then by practicing this vidhi purvaka bhakti, the prema bhava or the raga will slowly get in. And then it will become ragatmika. Because between vaidhi and ragatmika, it is obvious that vaidhi bhakti is lower and ragatmika is higher. So vaidhi bhakti is again the one that leads towards higher kind of gauni bhakti. But the point is that we should not be faltering there. Even if the prema bhava comes up, even if we start developing love for divinity, yet we must be not have callousness. We should not be careless about the very vidhi, because the vidhi is going to enrich our bhava, and therefore we should never compromise with the vidhi bhakti. Although the ragatmika bhakti has arrived. So, vidhi bhakti implies that there is something, usually it is believed, love cannot be taught and love cannot be learnt. We don't have academies of love. So it is not something that you can learn by, you can develop by learning. Love is such a feeling that you can't be learning the bhava, because the bhava is after all spontaneous. You can't decide and love, you can't learn and love. With regards to love, this must be understood, that you can't decide and love something, you can't learn and love something. You can't say, give me some days, I will learn and then I will love. No. That's not the way, if you understand the psychology of love. Then why the vidhi prachura bhakti? Why this Vaidika bhakti has come in? Because love is a feeling that it cannot be learnt, nor it can be decided. How then in bhakti there is vidhi bhakti, Vaidika bhakti? So this will be quite a logical question, that why are you trying to give a format for love, whereas there can be no such formatting of emotion of love. And this is very true when it comes to laukika plane. In worldly plane, you cannot be going for formation of love. The love must be found spontaneously. It must be there coming spontaneously. But in bhakti, Vaidhi bhakti has been mentioned because this is greatly different than laukika bhakti, laukika prem. There is no academy for learning worldly love. But when it comes to the love in bhakti, it's a different thing. See, about even prema, even about the feeling of love, there is education. And there can be education. And there is education actually. Because the premika, that means the two parties in love affairs, there are always two parties in love affairs. There should be two parties in love affairs. So, there they want to make successful manifestation of their love for the other. If you are loving another person, you want to see how you can give manifestation to your love feeling so that it is conveyed to the other person, it is impressive to the other person is impressed. And we try to do something even in laukika prema bhava. We want to see that we express our love successfully. So we want to see how it can be expressed successfully, because we want to know that the other person knows that we love that person or I love that person. So I want to be communicating it when it is love. And then how it can be successful communication. How it can be successfully manifesting is important thing in expressing the love. So what are the ways that usually we do today? And greeting cards, gifts, messaging, giving flowers, giving red rose, So, or taking oaths, for our beloved, what is called as anabhaka, or we promise, we want to promise, we want to give some security, surety to that other person. So we try to do so many things in order to make that person know that I love you. So for that purpose, we do so many things: messaging, chatting, gifting, offering flowers, greeting cards, love letters. So this is how we try to give manifestation to our love for the other person to really realize. And we want to do that successfully. We want to see that it doesn't backfire. So we take care. How should I write a letter? How should I write a message? How should I give a gift? And therefore we plan over it. Therefore there is vidhi. Even in our laukika prema bhava, we definitely take recourse to vidhis. And then we also try to learn vidhis. We try to learn this better way of expression by reading some romantic literature or going and watching some romantic movies. So we want to know how the love is expressed, or how the love can be expressed, how the love may be expressed. And we learn that from our iconic actors and actresses. We look at them as icons because we look at them in love affairs, in movies, and then we want to see what trick they apply, and then we want to learn from them. That is said to be that we learn from nayakas and nayikas, because we idealize some actor and actresses, some actors and some actresses. So we want to know how they express their feelings, how they make their gestures, how they exchange gestures, how they exchange things, how they interact. So we learn from them in through the movies, through the operas, or sometimes through the literatures, through novels which are romantic novels, or through romantic literature or romantic poetry. And we try to borrow those ideas and we try to use those ideas. So there is that vidhi even in laukika prema bhava. Now somebody will not be perhaps liking to express love in the way the actors and actresses exchanged 200 years back or 300 years back or 100 years back. Perhaps they are not appealing today. And therefore, we keep abreast with the present movie world, present world of dramas and operas, and present literatures. Something that is very old literature, perhaps we will not be able to use that technique. It is age-old technique, antiquated technique. So we want to keep abreast with modern social technique of love manifestation, love expression, etc. So therefore, even in matters of love, we are trying to have vidhi, the processes, which we try to borrow from our iconic actors and actresses. and from them we pick up the knacks and tricks. So the Vidhi Bhakti similarly here wants to see how the devotees have expressed their devotion to divinity. In various ways they have expressed their love for divinity, their bhakti for divinity. The way Hanuman expressed and the way Narada expressed are two different ways. That's why we have this long list of bhaktis which I have repeatedly given to you. So, we will see which is more suitable for us, which will be more apt for us. Anyway, there is a technique. Should I be devotee like Hanuman, or should I be devotee like Prahlada, or should I be devotee like Dhruva? So many assorted varieties are given so that we can select out of it as to which will suit us. And therefore, we have this huge kind of body of bhaktas which you get in bhakti literature, bhakti shastra. So they give us some primary lessons, they give us some major lessons, they teach us about how to develop the vidhi, how to use the vidhi, which vidhi to be developed. So there are so many examples, such as Prahlada, Narada, Pundarika, Parashara, Vyasa, Ambarisha, Shuka, Shaunaka, Bhishma, Dalbhya, Rukmangada, Vasishtha, Vibhishana, Akrura, Hanumana, Namdev, Gnandev, Tukaram, Tyagaraj, Eknath, Surdas, Narsi Mehta, Savtamali, Gaurava Kumbhar, Chaitanya, Tulsidas, Kabir, Miradai, Purandar Das, Kanakadas, Kurmadas, and countless. So, something will be more appealing to us, to be worshipping our beloved divinity. And therefore we are given this assorted kind of bhakti forms. Each one had a different kind of bhakti. There is a big difference between Kabir as bhakta and Hanuman as bhakta, or Tulsidas as a bhakta and Kabir as a bhakta, Mirabai as bhakta and Gnaneshwar as bhakta. So enormous kinds of bhaktas are there. So we learn from them. So something is quite impressive to us. Somebody's bhakti is more impressive to us, and we try to pick up from that impressive bhakti, and therefore we will be developing our prema vidhi, our bhakti vidhi. And therefore the Vaidhi bhakti is so important. So we must become familiar with so many vidhis, the processes used by each one of the bhakta, which I just now gave you a long list. You can compare the bhakti between the Hanuman's bhakti to Rama, the kind of bhakti, as against Tukaram's bhakti to Panduranga. So there will be a big difference. How Tukaram loved the divinity and how Hanuman had bhakti for divinity. How Surdas had bhakti for divinity and how Vasishtha had bhakti for divinity. So we get assorted kind of bhaktis, and we can have selection there, and that's why this is why Vaidhi bhakti has been given. Try to understand which is more impressive, which is more appealing to you, which is more suitable to you, and then you can be following it. That is why the Vaidhi bhakti is so important. Now what is this Vaidhi bhakti? What are the vidhis? The Shastra mentions there are vidhis. Listen to this now. Now, how divinity will be loved? How the bhakta will be loving divinity? What are the forms? Yes, there are basic vidhis, basic technicalities, technical processes, procedures. What are those? Shravana, Kirtana, Japa, Dhyana, Bahiryaga, Antaryaga. So the science of bhakti mentions about these vidhis. For Vaidhi bhakti, it mentions the vidhis. So to be more, according to the classical process, classical convention, the vidhis are Shravana, Kirtana, Japa, Dhyana, Bahiryaga, Antaryaga. And in these vidhis, there is something called as vidhi nisheda, do's and don'ts. This must be done, that should not be done. This should be done, that should not be done. This is how it should be done, that is how it should not be done. So all these vidhi nisheda will come here. So it is called vidhi bhakti because the Shastra mentions, Parampara mentions that the vidhis are Shravana, Kirtana, Japa, and Dhyana, Bahiryaga and Antaryaga. And there are certain rules and regulations to be in this, to be adhering to this. So there are sets of rules, sets of regulations. Now those are to be adhered to strictly and also quite scrupulously. That is why it is called Vidhi Bhakti. So that was little introductory information about this. Now we are going to deal with this Vidhi Bhakti in our next session. These 6 aspects we will be delineating on these: Shravana, Kirtana, Japa, Dhyana, Bahiryag, Antaryag. Let's understand these technically, the technicalities of these. But that is in the next session. So, namaskar all of you.